Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I have an addition.
Okay.
Asking for you to consider approval to hire Braun Intertech from St. Cloud, Minnesota to perform bituminous testing and plant monitoring services on the following reconstruction and rehabilitation projects for an estimated cost of $12,984 with funds from the 2019 highway construction budget.
All right, we'll add that as item B under Public Works. Any other additions or corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Polmeyer, second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Payment of the bills.
Mr. Chairman, I move the payment of the bills.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Kruger. Payment of the bills in the amount of $96,245. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public Works. John.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
First item, we took bids on our county stated Highway 8 project. That was a joint project with the Renville County. Two bids. Low bid was from Knife River Corporation out of Sauk Rapids, Minnesota, with a bid of $1,720,082.20. And the second bid we received was from Dunning Brothers at a bid of $1,929,027.46. The low bid from Knife River was about 1.3% under our engineer's estimate. And we reviewed with Renville County and we recommend the award. The award recommendation is contingent upon MnDOT, federal aid, and other state aid approvals because there's federal money involved. So there's a few more hoops we got to go through prior to official awards. That's why I need to make it contingent, which we've done in the past on all of these types of projects.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the bid to Knife River with the contingencies.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, the addition?
Yeah, second, and thanks for adding this to the agenda. This came up, so bituminous, we have bituminous driveways and so forth on our reconstruction projects. Initially, we thought that the driveways would be done after all the concrete paving. There is concrete paving that remains, and we don't have enough staff to cover it. We don't believe it'll go to the full, but $12,984, but we had to hire them to do the plant inspection for us. Our current techs are not certified in that. And like I said, it's running right now. It'll be simultaneous with some of the turn lanes that are left.
Any questions about that, about the addition?
Mr. Chair, John, was this unexpected or did you anticipate it coming later in the season? Or?
We thought it would be a little bit after we thought all the concrete would be done first before the bituminous came in there, so.
And Braun Intertech was able to perform on the short notice?
Yeah, they were able to find folks to cover the plant portion of it, yeah.
All right, any other questions?
To approve.
Motion by Commissioner Wright. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kruger. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Central Minnesota Jobs and Training.
Okay,
Good evening.
I'm going to have my staff and guests move right to the center, and I'm going to stand behind here.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you, Liz, for getting this ready and hoping that this is going to move to, and I have to have it help me.
Is this the same? This is what is on the screen?
Well, again, my name is Barb Chapin. I'm the CEO for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services. We serve 11 counties in the central part of our state, including McLeod County, of which I was born and raised in before I left college and got married. So, I'd like to just pause for one moment just to introduce my staff. I have, well, first of all, Tricia Bigowet is my finance director. She is not here. In our organization, we have Family First, and her son is pitching a very important team in baseball. So she had to, just wanted to tell you that, Ron, because she is not able to be here, so I'll take her part. Mel Schroeder is my youth employment specialist. She has a guest with her. Her name is Kate Lamson, and you'll be hearing from her. And I just found out that Kate has 4 brothers and a sister, and I have 4 living brothers and a sister, and we were both born and raised in Hutchinson, so we've got something in common. Well, 2019 marks our 35th year together as partners in workforce development, and I deeply appreciate the partnership that we've had with McLeod County Human Services. Donna has, I think she's still interim director, or is she director now? Donna? Is it Donna Croft?
She is the supervising person. She
Okay.
serves.
But I know that I've worked really well with Gary Cincinnati for over 20 years, and I know that Gary is no longer the director. And the one thing that I'm not going to miss about Gary is trying to spell his last name. As you know, so I can say that because he's usually here when I come and do my presentations, and it usually gets a laugh. But McLeod County is very fortunate to have such exemplary leadership in human services working in our community, so I'm very thankful for our partnership there. Our agenda is quite simple. The Joint Powers Board, I'm going to give an update there. One of the things that we have some new county commissioners that have been assigned to the board. In Meeker County, Steve Schmidt will take Mike Huberty's place because Mike Huberty left for Stearns to move to Stearns County. And in Renville, Greg Snow will switch with Randy Kramer, and they're going to switch committees. So the Joint Powers Board have wanted some training, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. And then there's a new initiative in Minnesota. It's called Career Force, and it's something that I'm also going to talk about. But the most important thing on my agenda is what's happening in your county, and right here in McLeod County. And that's why we have our guests with us. Then I will do my logistical part, and that is Tricia's, normally does the annual fiscal report, and I'm going to do that with her. So, of course, our Commissioner Szymanski is the commissioner that's been selected to be on our board, and he's served now 6 years. And we've got some of those openings there. So let's talk about some of the training that was asked for. In March of 2019, we started with the legal duties of the Joint Powers Board, and we also talked about the history of workforce development. And so if you ever want to know that history, I'd be happy to come and present it. I actually added some more fun slides to it. And then in June, just this last Friday, we had our corporate team, which is made up of myself, the finance director, who is Tricia Bigowet, and HRIT director, which is Kristen Yeager, really go over what do we do, what does the corporate team do. Then in September, we're going to be talking about all of our programs and services. The Workforce Development Division is also business services, so we'll be talking about businesses in our area. And then the Adult Dislocated Worker Public Assistant Division and the Youth Division. And you're going to be hearing from the Youth Division today. And then in December, we come together with the Joint Powers Board of Commissioners comes together with our Office Committee, and that's where Clifton Larson and we talk about our annual fiscal audit. We hear about it all at the same time. I know most of you know this, but if there's anyone new, you're going to probably hear it again. On the left-hand side is the local workforce development areas, and there's 16 in the state of Minnesota, and there also, under federal law, have to be 16 workforce development boards. There has to be 16 directors. I served highlighted 11 county, area, and there has to be 16 governing units. If you are 2 or more counties, you must be governed under a joint powers board. That's what Commissioner Szymanski sits on, is that board. So that governing unit has full fiscal authority and accountability. And that's one of the things that we go over in some of our trainings. On the right-hand side is something new under the Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act. And it's actually, we're aligned with Stearns-Benton, now forming a 13-county region, so that we can do regional planning. So in the state of Minnesota, there's a state plan for workforce development, there's a local plan, and there's a regional plan. And all of those plans have to be looked at by the Joint Powers Board. This is the new initiative here in Minnesota. It's called Career Force. When we got a new governor, we got a new DEED commissioner. So he put this on hold, so you're going to be hearing the rollout on this probably, come sometimes late fall. But really what it is, it's one of the things that happened was we're sometimes the best kept secret, and they wanted to reestablish a system where we would be widely known. And so this is the state's attempt to bring that. So instead of being called a Career Force Center, it's going to be called a Workforce Center. It's going to be called Career Force. So it'll be like Career Force Hutchinson. That's where the Workforce Center was at, and now it's going to be called Career Force Hutch and Rich and Wilmer and all these extra. So we've got some specialized center too. Altogether, we have 11 sites. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to my staff and my guest, and then I'll come back up here and complete the rest of our presentation.
Thank you, Barb. So as Barb said, my name is Meryl Schroeder, and I am a youth employment specialist for Central Minnesota Job and Training. I work with youth ages 14 to 24 here in McLeod County, as well as Meeker County. So I cover both counties. And I'd like to say I pretty much work with youth to help them with any employment and training needs. But some of the more specific things that I've been working on lately here in this county is what's called pre-employment transition services. I've had a group at New Century Academy, Hutchinson High School, and I just started a group over the summer here today at GSL. And basically I'm working with youth to get them a little bit more prepared for life after high school. We work on things like job applications, interviewing, career assessments, and then career exploration, determining what jobs are in demand and high wage. So helping them just better prepare for a plan after high school. A lot of the schools are already doing that, but we just come in and do a little bit more to help the schools out a little bit. That's one of the big focuses. We also, at New Century Academy, did some landscaping there, so helping the school a little bit. And at the Hutch High School, we did some clothing organization for clothing that was donated for local foster youth. So that was a cool project as well. Another thing I've been working on a lot has been our work experience placement program. What that essentially is I place youth at local businesses to gain some basic work skills. Let's say they haven't had much of a job before in employment history. I can place them at local businesses, and my agency pays them a wage. Typically it's minimum wage, depending on the job that they're doing, for them to gain some basic work skills and some job history. I actually recently placed one at the food shelf here in town, and I'm working on placing one at Clay Coyote and Hutchinson, and I'm working on 6 other placements with the potential for 4 more. So that's a big in-demand program I have. I'm also involved in the Ignite Your Future event, if any of you have heard about that happening at Ridgewater and Hutchinson. So that's a little bit like a job fair, but revamped. So it's where youth are going to come in, and there's going to be businesses, it's business driven, where the youth can actually try on some different aspects of different careers. They might try to do some welding themselves, or might do like an injection into an orange to kind of test out some nursing phlebotomy skills. So it's some hands-on career exploration for youth, and that's happening on October 25th, and I'm part of the steering committee for that. I also help with training. I have 3 youth in CNA training right now. One is with me right here. So that's another thing I help with, training, post-secondary education. I have youth on my caseload that is also pursuing post-secondary education, and I brought one along with me, so I will let her share her experience.
Hi, I'm Kate Lamson. I started working with Mel a year ago now, about a year ago. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had heard from my grandma actually to come in and work with you, and I wasn't too sure because I was like, oh boy, I don't know what this entails. So I ended up meeting with Mel, and I got so much information that I just didn't know what to do with it. So we met again, and we kind of started talking about what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, essentially. And we kind of started exploring careers a little bit, and I wanted to be in the medical field, but I had no idea where to even start. I had ideas, and we would look into them, and then I would decide that maybe the pay wasn't enough, or I would have to go too far for school with having 2 children, that it was probably not the best option. So we kind of started, we kind of looked at going to Ridgewater and what programs they offered there, and we took some assessments, and I decided that I wanted to start the LPN program at Ridgewater here. But I hadn't been in school for a couple of years, so taking the AccuPlacer test, I was super nervous and figured that I was just gonna bomb it. So she actually set me up with a program for ABE, Adult Basic Learning, and they do like your GED and then help with like your AccuPlacer test and things of that sort. So I did that for 3 months, I think it was. And then I ended up getting accepted into Ridgewater, and I started my first semester, and then I found out that I had to do my CNA as well to be an LPN. So we talked about it, we got it all scheduled in like 3 days, I think it was. It wasn't hardly anything, it was super fast. And now I just had finished clinicals here in Glencoe last week, and I will be testing out and then going on to further education for the next couple of years.
Terrific.
Any questions at all? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. I think that was it. She was nervous, but I think she did really good.
Very
I
good.
think
Very
she
good.
did super great, so thank you. Well, there's an annual fiscal audit that is in your left-hand side of your packet, I believe, and it looks something like this without my notes. And that is the business part that I have to bring to you today. So in December of each year, the Joint Powers Board actually reviews this annual fiscal audit with Clifton Larson and Allen, who's our auditors. And we have $6.4 million in grants, over 80, in revenue, over 80% is going directly into client services. And $3.8 million from federal funds. We had over 40 grants. I would be amiss if I didn't tell you that Brian O'Donnell was going to be here tonight to talk about this, but he's also on our board. He's our secretary, he's our treasurer, and he also got called by his wife to do something different, so I know you know Brian. So, some of the things that happen with Clifton Larson Allen usually come in for about a week. They come in with a different cohort of staff. They dig really deep. They select the federal or state funding programs. They selected our public assistance programs this time, the federal, and they pull designated case files. They review our internal controls manual, which is about this thick. They look at cost categories, budgets, etc., and they evaluate all fiscal processes, including our vendor list. So it's quite intensive. So if you go to, passing all the logistical stuff, if you go to the page 27, which looks just like this, what it's going to tell you is important, especially to the Joint Powers Board. And a lot of Joint Powers Board members just go right to page 27. Basically what it talks about is that in the internal controls of our financial reporting, there was no material weaknesses were identified, no significant deficiencies were identified, No non-compliance materials or financial statements were noted. For the federal awards, which they chose the TANF cluster or public assistance, there was no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and both were unmodified decisions, and that was the highest that you can receive. There was no audit findings disclosed that are required to be reported at all to our Joint Powers Board. The threshold for having a single audit is $750,000, and that is recorded here. And we are a low-risk auditee, and this is our 8th year for a clean audit, which is almost unheard of in our business. So we're very proud of that. We have a real tight ship, and we're very transparent, as I'm sure that Commissioner Schmansky can tell you. Also, this is some information on what does our funding actually look like right now. And so we have 25.8% is state dollars, 51.7 is federal, and we reorganized some years ago, about 5 years ago, and now we have a competitive division, and total competitive right now is 22.5. Before, we were at 50% federal, 49% point something state, and only 0.1% of our competitive. So now we have really switched that so that we don't have to be dependent on state and federal dollars. And we think that that's a really smart way to go. This is something that's important to bring out because you need to know that Commissioner Schmansky is covered under D&O insurance and all these other insurances. So if you look down about, it says directors and officers, it says policy type, insurance carrier coverage. Our policy is at $2 million. That's as high as we can go. Our commissioners have asked us to be at $2 million, and we are. And that's with $2,500 is our deductible, and of course our staff are also covered under the $2 million policy. So you can see that that's important for me to bring out so that you understand that Ron is covered. Commissioner is covered. This is our annual report. It's brand new. It's on your right-hand side. You can pull it out. It's a trifold. Instead of we had like a calendar before, it is now a trifold, and we're just specifically saying, here's our programs and services. This is how we serve people. And it's kind of quick and dirty, but because we are on the opposite side of the economy, which means that the economy is really good. That means that we're going to be down, and that's why we have 6 million versus 15 million. When we have a recession, we are in the 15 million mark. We have 109 staff. When we're in good, great economy, we're down to around that 50, 48, somewhere around that staff, depending on which day. So it's a little bit different. We're a little bit on the different side. And then if you take a look at this next one, it's really about the universal customer versus the program participants. And so our universal customers, those people that come right off the street, they want to use our computers, they want to find a job, they want to look, we want to go to some of our workshops, they might need resume help, they might need help with interviewing, they might come in for a job fair or business expo, or they come in because we have adult Biz Again at some of our sites and they want to get their GED or computer training or whatever it is. So that's what our universal customers do. On the other hand, whoops, this is the wrong one, sorry. No, this is universal customers, I'm sorry. And then on the right hand, you have the program participants, and we serve 2,888 across our 11 counties who actually get cash support training. I think that is it. Let's see. That's it. Do you have any questions? I went through that like super fast because I know you have a tight schedule tonight. So I talk fast and I go fast. So
Sorry.
hopefully that
Barb,
was.
thank you. And I think one of the important factors is the fiscal responsibility that your agency has, and pulling down the federal funds. The biggest share of the funds are federal funds, but they all come through the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, and so that we have to work closely with that agency to make sure we get the funds that are properly allocated for our region. And I know legislatively, there have been some battles about, how DEED, distributes funds, Metro versus outstate Minnesota. And, I congratulate your staff for working hard to make sure that rural Minnesota gets their share of the funding to make sure that we have a well-trained workforce.
The next time I come out, I'm going to have some documentation that shows how many businesses that we have in our area. Because the Workforce Development Fund was just a worker fee. And every employer in the state, all 87 counties, pays into that fee for every employee that we have. And it has about maybe 80%, 87% of that is going to the metro area. And I want to be able to take that to the legislature and say, it's got to stop. We are almost identical with the metro area versus greater Minnesota, where we're at almost the same population. Maybe we have a little less, it doesn't mean that we should be getting that less money. So you're right. I'm hoping to get that and doing research now and getting that all put together so that the next time we come up, we'll be able to see that.
And one of the other things that our board is working on long-range planning and, the eye toward economic development. And I know your agency can help us in that area as
We
well.
certainly can. We have actually added economic development to our, as another program. And so we're trying to make sure that the 7W actually is, has a district. And so we're working on that right now, but we'll be very happy to help you. And any of your LOI information, anything that you need for economic development.
Is it the state demographer's office that reports to your staff as well?
And Luke Reiner comes and gives any kind of report that you need. He's the one for our area. He's housed out of the Wilmer office, but he travels all over and he will bring any kind of demographics, anything. And if you look on the left-hand side, you should see McLeod County. He's the one who actually creates those for me. And if there's anything else that's missing that you want on there, like right now I'm going to have him do some research so that I know exactly how many businesses that we have in every region and how many employees, so that I can do a formula to figure out how much money is going into the workforce development fee fund and how much we should pay back for each county. So I'll be looking at each. If I can separate, we can separate those, I'm going to be coming up and talking to you about those things. It's going to take a little research. So I can get it right back today.
Very
So
good.
thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before you go, Barb, I see it, thanks for your presentation, and I get a lot of these, but I think we're shorting the young lady a little bit. She sounds, that means more to me than a lot of these figures, so
It does.
I think she worked hard and she deserves our credit. That's real good. I'd like to see more of that and less figures, but that's just me.
Well, there's the business part I have to bring out, but I can tell you that this is what you've asked for and this is what we're doing. We'll bring out a lot more if you'll allow us to do that, because just the fact that Kate is here tonight, it says a lot about her and coming to, she's working her little hiney off to get through school, and now she's coming out and doing a presentation. I thought she did a great job.
She did.
Thank you. She did an
Thanks.
excellent job, so thank you, and I appreciate you saying that, because there's nothing that is more important to me than listening to those individuals. Commissioner Schmansky's been at some of the legislative breakfast, and I got to tell you that we bring in lots of individuals that are clients, and there's probably not a dry eye in the house, because some of them have gone through some pretty traumatic things to get where they're at. So, but thank you. And legislative breakfast, you can all come to that, so you can hear them all at the same time.
All right. Here's some more.
Nope.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Government center update. Pat, Brian, Sam?
Oh, you just go there.
Push laptop on here, please.
Yeah.
Sam, is it done yet?
Yeah. You didn't notice?
Well, it looks like Brian is a few minutes behind here. We were told 5:10, so I'll give him. Anyways, yes, update for the McLeod County Government Center. We are providing some drawing updates here, but I don't know if you guys have it on your screen or not. But we are 4 weeks away from construction documents to be submitted to.
Do we have these in a packet, Liz, or not?
And
For now, I'll let you go.
so basically just a quick update of where we're at. We've begun putting all the final touches on it. You know, there's 110 sheets and I don't think we necessarily want to go through all sheets, but you know, we're including the mechanical, engineering, the electrical, the structural design, architectural. This is civil, a quick overview of, you know, kind of again the parking layout, kind of what the front is looking like. Where a few items that we're still going through would include some of the canopy details out in front and reviewing some force protection as it relates to, you know, a barrier for any kind of catastrophic event. You know, the flag poles and some landscaping would help be in that position to prevent that. Still working through some of those details as we go into some of the floor plan layout. This is, you can look at the elevations. This is kind of some static 2D views of kind of the front. It includes the wing. We've incorporated the skylight into the design. This is a grayscale, but the tones, you can kind of see the architectural detail that we're planning to do on the exterior. Some signage has been added. Existing facility, so there's not much that we're changing on here. We added adjusted the size of some openings, some new glass windows on the east elevations. This has changed dramatically probably since the last update. Reduced the amount of and cost effectiveness. Hello, Brian.
Started early.
Yeah, feel free to jump in whenever you would like. So we're just going through over the exterior items, some changes that have been made since our last update. Moving into some of the floor plans. This is a drawing that indicates some of the furniture. This is our first floor plan. We've just spent some time with the design team, Sheila and Liz and Scott this morning, and reviewing with Connie some of the layout here at the License Center. We have also reviewed or revised a little bit in the boardroom. Making this a little bit more rounded feel to it as a jagged feel once was. We've been working with technology and IT with Matt and Scott to locate data locations, televisions, phones, audio, etc. Also incorporating into furniture design with Mariah on our design team as well, and Brian. So this is first floor. It's kind of setting up. We have been reviewing this with the city of Glencoe to date. It's taken a step back to the civil side. The vacation permit of 6th Street and the rezoning have both been approved. The Buffalo Creek watershed permit has been approved. SEH has seen our drawings and has provided a review. There's a couple minor things that we need to clarify for Justin on their end of it, but everything seems to be going relatively smooth from the city side. Second floor, again, not a lot has changed with this layout. We have our front stairs coming up. This will be public access in this area. We'll have some private meeting rooms, a larger meeting room. And then we move into the back of house area here with some open office layouts and some interior conference rooms, department head offices. And then again, some open office or workstations on the east side. Here you can see where we've added some exterior lighting for new windows to bring in some exterior lighting along with acceleration. This is the IT center, and then this would be the data center. And if you recall, this area is going to be, this is an added square footage along with this general west and south layout as well. We are, again, 4 weeks out from construction documents, which means, a full set with specifications for Sam to submit or review his pricing rather. And then, I don't know, Sam, do you want to touch base on your schedule?
Give a quick overview on when he gets those plans ready. What I'll do is meet with you guys. I believe that July 2nd, I think was the next board date. That's fairly close to that. At that time, we'll probably ask for one of you guys to probably make a motion. We'll have to make a motion to proceed with advertising for bidding. Just because we make that motion does not set necessarily, it doesn't have to come out that next day. But what we'll probably end up doing is likely we'll get that motion at least done or presented, and we'll probably take a week or more after that to go through the plans and just verify everything is as you guys would like prior to going out for bid, just so that it tends to keep the plans pretty clean. We can always do addendums and any changes we want after that, but the less we have, the more we catch before that, the better off we are with bidding. Depending on how that goes, if it goes fairly smooth, we're probably looking at that 5 to 6 week. You have to run that legal bid for that add 3 consecutive weeks. So that's 4. It's a full month. When that gets over, tentatively we're looking at that first or second week in August for a bid date. I just have to qualify, and then I will be at the next board meeting that I can reach after that to get another motion. Favorable, hopefully get some favorable bids or good to go on approving that. So 1st of July we'll probably run for looking at getting the ad for bid sent out, and then hopefully about mid to the end of August, depending on which board I can get, we'll be shooting for that. The other thing I was just thinking when Pat was talking, that was that week or two that we might take for a little review, that probably won't at the end of the day hurt our start time, just because we won't be able to send those plans to get the building permit until they're at CD, which will be, I think, the 12th of July. So I'm just guessing probably the time we get a permit, we'll probably be matching right with it. So I have a hard time believing that's going to be a deterrent. That little extra time, I think, will just help the project at the end of the day. And then on top of that, I feel like we're hitting this at the right time for bidding. I'd rather us be in that August date versus this end of July, just because school season's gonna start wrapping up here. And it gives those guys that are a little less stressed and up to the board, so they'll give a little more effort on looking at these plans. So the way it's shaping up right now looks very, very good for our bidding market.
And then here's just a few renderings that Mariah was able to organize for us in our meeting today. And this is standing at the front, kind of looking at the revised layout of the license center. There's a lot of detail that, this isn't obviously rendered perfectly, and there's some minor details that aren't perfect, but kind of gives you a feel for the space. And then this is kind of standing behind the desk to look at it. So, since we had it here, I would share that.
Yeah, just for July 16th.
What's that?
July 16th.
So yes, after our construction set is organized on the 12th, we are planning to have is it public? Is that what it is? Yep. So public viewing. We're going to organize kind of a virtual reality setup of the documents where people can put on the goggles and, they have a joystick and basically walk through the space. And we're going to organize that up at the existing facility for the public. And so yeah, it'll be July 16th from 3 to 6.
So the employees would be from 3 to 4, and the
Oh.
public would be after.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions for these guys?
Yeah, what's this down here in the corner? Is that just customer seating or?
This is the reception desk.
Oh, it's the reception.
Yeah, it's a little bit kind of hard to.
But will there be, visitor seating?
Yes, there will. It's just not showing. Yep. Yeah, you would see it on a different view, but
Sure.
you can see it here. There's there'll be a kind of an open seating here, and then there's seating against the glass.
Thanks for the timeline. I think that's what people enjoy or
Yeah.
need to know the most.
Yep.
All right, any questions?
I just a comment, Mr. Chair, I have been working with, I talked with Pat and Mariah, they've been helpful, because I stated early on, or we all kind of did, that we're going to try to get as many McLeod County or close by people involved in construction if we can. They've been working with me real well to get information out, and I of course, I'm going to keep lobbying. I've talked to some of the guys themselves to make sure they keep it on their radar list, and I'll make sure they'll probably have Sam's number after those guys get done. But I mean, it was important to us from the start, and if it works out, it'll be good.
Give everyone the opportunity.
Yep, that's all I can ask for is the opportunity. But sometimes, by whose fault, I don't know, they don't pay enough attention, or sometimes they feel like they're playing catch up, so I'm trying to make sure they know about it fast enough so they don't have that perception.
I didn't see any detail about entrance security or anything. We talked about the outside barriers and things, but will there be
You're talking about
facilities?
like video security?
Or video or, the metal detector screening?
Well,
Is
we
that going to be
haven't talked about metal
implemented?
detectors yet. I don't know if that's ever been brought up. We certainly talked video security.
Or at least, the electronics in place to set it up at some point if it's even necessary.
If we're going to look at that, we'd have to look at it before you get to the stairwell going upstairs. So we'll have to look at some kind of control point there. We can talk with your IT people about what might be needed. Sam, in your experience, is something we should have on the floor?
It's about power, yeah. If you would like to, we kind of did that up here when we did this one. The only thing that I will put on the way that this is set up is that if you're going to go that route, we're going to have to go all to, you'd have to make a policy, usually all public or employee and public, whatever you want to do. But there will have to be some additional ads for that floor plan, because usually you have to have everyone come in on a certain side and exit on a certain side, otherwise they can mingle in there and you don't know.
Intermingled.
So if it would have to be kind of you have to pre-plan it for a pretty good possibility if you'd like. Because there is a little more to it now than I mean, it seems so easy to do, but when you think about how people can get around it, it does take a little bit of effort. If you think you're strongly for that, we can
I'm
obviously
just
do it.
thinking back
now.
when we toured Sherburne County.
Yeah.
We walked through a screening.
We put them in frequently. It's always, I've never had them put, like, we prep it, but we've never put it in. It kind of, it's a big policy change now for all the counties in the state. Because a lot of them have historic courthouses and/or, we have a lot of historic buildings remaining in place yet, and there's multiple entrances. And the big gap that everyone's trying to gather is that you're going from 4 or 3 entrances to a single point, because it's a single point entry to make sure you're covering yourself. And that's kind of where the hang up is, because the public has a little bit of an issue. You know, it takes a lot of time, and employees, it takes a little while to get them going through it, but it takes probably 15, 20 minutes at the beginning of the day to get everyone through that process. So it's a little policy change for you guys, but I'm sure once everyone starts doing it, we will. I just don't know if it's gonna be in 5 years or 15 or.
Well, I believe we discussed this and decided not to rough it in because Sherburne had partially their government center with this and their justice center, and our justice center is here, and that's why we're paying money to have it here, the screening. Because I do remember us talking about possibly roughing it in to the entrance and deciding against it when we were
It's
moving forward.
far more typical in your courts building. I mean, by a mile. These are quite a bit less risk of building than what you have, but not unheard of.
Okay, I just thought,
Yeah, no,
since we're in the planning stage, I would
yep.
just clear that up.
All right. I think that's it, guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't see Karen from Court Administration here, so Connie, are you ready to go?
Hello.
Hello. Almost said good morning.
I am here before you today to talk about the grant that has been issued from the legislation that Governor Walz included the appropriation for $13 million for deputy registrar reimbursement grants. And he has, or the staff has calculated that McLeod County would receive $49,278.37 for our McLeod County Deputy Registrar 084. And I am here for you to consider the approval of Resolution 19-CB29 to approve that reimbursement grant.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the approval of Resolution 19CB-29.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Connie, the State Department of Public Safety calculated this. Do they take into account what our overhead costs were for the administration of the Min-Lars Boggle?
The calculation was based on the 10% of it was divided equally among all deputy registrars, and I believe there are about 174, but I'm not sure on that. And then the remaining portion was calculated looking at our fees that we received in our number of transactions.
So basically, number of transactions. Okay. Because I just did a little mild calculation, and I figured if 13 million was divided at about 50,000 apiece, that would be about 260 deputy registrars.
Right, and I think the average would have been like 74,000 something.
Okay, all right. Just being a little bit skeptical about whether we're getting fully reimbursed or just a partial reimbursement in this process. So, thank you for bringing it forward.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
We have part B there.
I thought we had a part B.
Connie?
Oh, yeah, you have B too. B just authorizes her to sign. Don't you on that?
Oh, yes, that's also part of the resolution.
Is there a motion to approve that?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Wright, second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks.
All right. Sheila, you don't know that Karen's coming?
I don't believe she is attending. We had asked, we didn't hear back.
So we're just not going to take action on that then?
You know, I have a couple questions about it. And I'm not sure if it's just the Rule 20s and 2001, 2002, or if it's the sex offenders also. And I think we ought to get clarification on that. We did make an inquiry as to whether or not this particular person would agree to submit claims to insurance. And she indicated that she would not because it's an ethical violation. And how that is, I don't know. So we might be better off holding off on this and letting our new human services person have some input in it.
So do you think just let it go from lack of action or table it, or what do you think is?
I'd
Said it's on the
table it
agenda.
until your first meeting. When's your first meeting in July?
The second.
It's July 8th, so we're going to do
Oh.
the second meeting.
Okay, let's go to the second meeting in July.
I'd make that a motion,
All
Mr.
right.
Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Table that item, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Mike. Okay. County administration, reviewing our calendars. Go ahead, Rich.
Okay, since the last meeting, we had a workshop after the meeting, and then on the 5th, I attended the AMC district meeting down at St. James, gave a county report. Couple things that stick out with me from my memory is there are several other counties doing various amounts of reconstruction, reevaluation and so forth of their county buildings, and every one of them seems to be almost way more money than what ours are. They're varying anywhere from 12 to 30 some million per building. So I think we've got a good handle on our government center the way we're looking towards it. On the 6th, I was up in Alexandria with Ron on the Prime West meeting, welcoming the additional 11 counties that will be joining Prime West at some point in the very near future, hopefully by the first part of next year. The 7th, I had a little of my own fun. I was able to officiate in the state softball tournament. I did a third place game, so that was something that I really enjoy that. And then on the 12th, attended the Pack for Families collaborative, very short meeting. Had a little presentation on some of the ways that we're dealing with some of the influx of international people coming into the area, and the different struggles that some of them are having regarding their culture fitting in with some of our laws. So not sure exactly how to feel about that, but I think we all need to be aware that every culture might take them a while to adapt to our society and our situation with the way we handle our laws and handling medical issues and so forth. So it was good to hear from another culture. That brings me up to today, I believe.
Okay, the main couple meetings that I attended within the last couple weeks, Fair Commission, we talked about building maintenance, also the feedback that we had provided from our workshop on the long-range plans and visioning for the fairgrounds. Also, we went through the selection process of the new sign that will be located on the south entrance if it happens to fit from the timeline yet this summer. MRF meeting,
went over our new agreement. We're looking at setting up our next SWAC meeting. Discussion on the rural sites and CAP grant will be some things that we need to cover when we get that organized. That's it.
All right. After our workshop at the last meeting, on the 6th was part of the interviews for the IT director and the human services director, and participated in those. I'll let Sheila give an update to that if there is any more than that. Fair Commission, which was covered, had a department head meeting, also met regarding some personnel issues. Had a Trailblazer meeting, trying to, I don't know, honestly trying to get my head wrapped around what MnDOT's expectations are. So hopefully we can resolve some of those issues. And last few days I participated in the town that I live in, the Hutch Water Carnival festivities. So it's been a busy couple weeks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since our last board meeting, we followed up the board meeting with the county board workshop where we did some discussion about the fairgrounds facilities. I found that very interesting. On June 7th, we had the AMC district meeting down at St. James where we elected a new district director. His name is Blair from Waseca County. The former directors had reached term limits, so they were ousted, and we put in a new director. And then Thursday, we had the Prime West Health Joint Powers meeting up at Alexandria. We welcomed some of the new participants in our expansion for 2020. It really filled up the boardroom. We had a nice meeting. Everybody is very appreciative of the good work being done at Prime West. And then on Friday of that week, the first week of June, I attended the Hutch Dairy Day, and noticed that Congressman Colin Peterson was there. Didn't get a chance to meet with him directly, but some of the folks that had a chance to visit with him were pleased to see him there. On Tuesday, we had a meeting with the Soil and Water Conservation District, myself with the staff, talking about the County Ditch 11 project with the grant funding, and working out participation with the local landowners. We'll be working on that moving forward. And then on Thursday the 13th, we had the Meeker McLeod Sibley Community Health Board Joint Powers meeting. This month we met up in Litchfield at their Health and Human Services building, and covered quite a bit of area there. Things are getting along okay without an executive director. The interim director is doing the best she can, but is really feeling kind of inundated with a lot of extra duties there, and we hope to keep everything on track there. On Thursday evening, we had Silver Lakes Dairy Day, and that was a fun event for families in Silver Lake. On Friday, we had the Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Joint Powers Board meeting up in Monticello, and you heard from Barb Chafee here earlier today. She pretty well covered what we had discussed at our meeting last week, and that is it, Mr. Chair.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. After our workshop of our various discussions on long-range planning and a few other topics, after the last meeting, I attended on the 5th. We had our North Fork Crow Joint Powers Board meeting. I sat in on that. As you know, as everyone should know, we're coming. This will be the last year for the Joint Powers Board with the Crow, and we'll be going into the North Fork One Watershed, One Plan. So we discussed challenges there and trying to have a smooth transition into that. That afternoon I sat in on the HHS director interviews, and also on the 6th several more interviews. On the 10th we had our MRF meeting in Hutchinson, just discussing our challenges there with our new procedure there with waste management, or with West Central, and in transitioning over to just reloading and hauling our waste out of there. On the 11th, we had a department head meeting at the North Complex, and after that I sat in on Blanco, had their Farm City Days up at the city center. And there were several topics of interest there with the farmers on the late season and the challenges with dairy. Farmers Union had a number of representatives there, along with some other financing people up there, and I got a chance to talk to several farmers. I also, during the last 2 weeks, I went out and looked personally at some of our ditches, and they're not in good shape, as most people know. The sloughing in of the banks and the washing away of riprap. I also sat in on the 14th on a pre-bid meeting with the contractors, and that led into going out to a JD 18 with the contractor and some landowners and Houston's, and we looked at some challenges there along the Becker property and just how we were going to handle that. We got a pretty good, if everything goes as planned, we got a pretty good idea on what we're going to do there. It should hopefully, if it quits raining, we should be able to get through some of that. And that brings us up to today. Thanks.
Sheila, anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add that we did hire a new Health and Human Services Director, Julie Erickson, coming to us with a good amount of experience from the Department of Human Services and other places in Minnesota. She will start on July 8th.
And I just said it was a great pool of candidates.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's great that Julie's able to start. The one thing I'll add before we move on, and I failed to mention it, regarding the fairgrounds, there was a state Angus show there. I think it was about 65, 70 head of cattle. The judge was named Matthew Hagan, who happens to be my cousin. So I think he screwed the whole thing up. But he and many other acquaintances I have from that world, from my past, sought me out to let me know how nice our facilities were. I mean, these people show all over the country. They know what they're doing, and they had nothing but good things to say about our facilities. They gave me some suggestions we could maybe do to even bring more of those types of events to our fairgrounds. So it was mainly in the new show arena. The cattle were stalled in one half and the show in the other. It did extend a little bit to some other buildings, but they were very complimentary, and I just wanted everybody to know that, because that was a big investment for the county, and I think it's paying off. All right, item A under county administration.
Thank you. Asking for you to consider approval for an extension of personal leave for a full-time employee who is granted a 30-day personal leave from June 1, 2019 through June 30th. Employee is requesting to extend the leave past 30 days for July 1 through July 31, 2019 for their own health issue.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Schmancy, second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion?
Sheila, is this person essential? Is there staff that can cover this extended leave of absence in the department?
That's a difficult question. I would say that we consider this person essential, especially right now during this season. There are other staff that can cover their duties, but we don't have enough staff to cover the duties overall.
Are you considering backfilling at all, short-term with temporary services or anything?
No, we're not. The training curve wouldn't allow for that, for a 30-day leave.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is this a long-term employee? I mean, he or she been here for a long time?
I am not.
I mean, I have no problem.
I don't want to share anything that would
Sure.
identify them, so.
And I understand that, and I guess I don't have a problem going along with it, but if it comes up again, I mean, there needs to reach a point where.
What's the recommendation of the department head? that it ought to be granted. Oh, when you come here without their approval.
Right.
So,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
it's your personnel policy that requires this to come in front of you. If you don't want it to come in front of you, if you want to approve a leave of absence of up to 60 or 90 days at the discretion of the administrator and the department head, you are free to change that.
Thank you
Now
for
would
that.
especially be a good time because the personnel policy would be reviewed along with the union contracts for 2020.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And that, Mr. Chair, and that's a double-edged sword. I appreciate it too, Mike. It's a double-edged sword in transparency, but I don't have any problem with people giving people breaks if they need them, but sometimes they get out of hand, and I just don't want to see them get out of hand.
I think we all want them equitable and, fair. I think we can work on that through the policy and see what we can come up with. So, item B.
Thank you. Notification of Board of Appeals and Equalization meeting to be held tonight, June 17th, 2019 at 6:00 p.m. in the courthouse boardroom at the McLeod County Courthouse. Item C.
Yep, please.
Notification of Town Hall meeting regarding Tagus Avenue and Sunset Circle, Hutchinson, Minnesota, to be held on June 24th, 2019 at 6:00 p.m. at the McLeod County Fairgrounds Country Diner. And item D, notification of McLeod County Workshop to be held on July 2nd, 2019, following the county board meeting at the Glencoe City Center.
And just to clarify on that open house for next Monday, that's not Paul, we aren't intending to have the county board take any action.
No.
Correct? So it's to receive public input and try to answer any questions that they might have.
All right. Open forum, press relations. Looking for a motion to recess until our next board meeting on July 2nd, 9 a.m. at the Glencoe City Center.
Move to recess.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski,
Second.
second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.